The moment my brother's fraud was projected onto the giant screen at the Silicon Valley Tech Conference, I felt nothing but calm. A strange, crystalline calm that comes from 3 years of planning, of hiding my success while watching my family worship at the altar of Devon's lies. That can't be right, Devon stammered, his carefully cultivated startup founder persona cracking like cheap veneer. The spreadsheets displayed behind us told a different story: fabricated clients, double billed investors, money funneling into personal accounts. I noticed my mother stand up in the third row, her face contorted with fury and fear. My father couldn't even meet my eyes. 300 industry insiders, investors, and journalists watched in stunned silence. Ladies and gentlemen, I continued, my voice steady despite the chaos erupting around me. This is what happens when you mistake charm for competence, when you value appearances over truth. I unpinned my microphone, placed it deliberately on the podium. And when you bet everything on the wrong child. How did we get here? How did the overlooked daughter become the executioner of her family's reputation? The story begins, as these stories often do, with a dinner conversation 3 years ago, the day my father laughed at my little hobby, which happened to be the same day I deposited my first $1 million check. 3 years earlier, I remember sitting at our family's mahogany dining table, forcing a polite smile while my father brandished his wine glass like an Olympic torch. The salmon on my plate had gone cold, but no one noticed. No one ever noticed me when Devon was in the room. Devon's going to revolutionize logistics with AI, my father announced to no one in particular, his chest puffed with borrowed pride. Silicon Valley's practically throwing money at him. My mother beamed, reaching over to squeeze Devon's hand. And to think you came up with the whole idea over a weekend. I stabbed at my salmon, keeping my face carefully neutral. My phone vibrated silently in my pocket, another six-figure order notification. 2 hours earlier, I'd signed a deal that would triple my company's production capacity, but I knew better than to mention it. Devon's eyes flicked to me, his smile the practiced charm that had convinced venture capitalists to part with millions. What about you, Trinity? Still selling mugs and stickers online? Something like that, I replied. My father jumped in immediately, ever the helpful patriarch. You should let Devon help you scale up. He knows all about e-commerce optimization now. I caught my reflection in the window, perfectly composed, not a flicker of what I really felt showing through. The day my company valuation hit 8 figures was the day I perfected the art of appearing smaller than I was. It was safer that way. The last time I'd tried sharing business news, my mother had patted my hand condescendingly. Honey, it's sweet that you're still making those little accessories. I'm managing okay, I said now, the understatement of the century. Managing okay means you're barely surviving, my mother chimed in, her tone both concerned and dismissive, a specialty of hers. You need a real career, sweetheart. Teaching positions are always opening up at. I should head out, I interrupted, standing up. Early morning tomorrow. No one asked what the early morning entailed. If they had, I wouldn't have told them about the Japanese buyers flying in or the Forbes journalist scheduled for an interview. Some secrets were becoming too delicious to share. The glass office, 2.1 million, Tegan whistled 3 years later, spinning in her ergonomic chair as we reviewed our quarterly numbers. Not bad for a hobby, huh? My downtown office gleamed with success, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, wall-mounted screens displaying real-time sales data from 3 continents. Tegan had been with me from the beginning, from packing orders in my apartment to becoming crew of what the Wall Street Journal had recently called the fastest-growing lifestyle brand of the decade. I laughed, but there was an edge to it. Don't let my family hear you call it that. They might have a heart attack. Do they still think we're selling friendship bracelets out of your garage? Pretty much. Last Christmas, my mom tried to slip me a job application for retail management. Said it would give me real business experience. Tegan snorted, her dark curls bouncing with indignation. Meanwhile, we're about to launch in 3 new countries, and Devon's still burning through his third round of funding with nothing to show for it. I minimized the spreadsheet, revealing our sleek company logo while my little accessories, now a global brand, carried in over 200 stores nationwide. Speaking of which, Tegan leaned forward, recognizing my tone. I heard through the grapevine that his revolutionary AI software doesn't actually exist. It's all smoke and mirrors. They've been using human data entry and pretending it's automated. Yep, I confirmed. And my parents remortgaged their house to invest in it. They what? Tegan nearly fell out of her chair. Please tell me you're joking. I shook my head. Found out last week. They took out $500,000 against the house for their golden child's sure thing. The irony wasn't lost on me. While I was building an actual empire, my parents were bankrolling Devon's elaborate facade. I'd stopped seeking their approval years ago, or so I like to tell myself. I don't get it, Tegan said. Your brothers, what, 35? Why is he still their golden child? What happened in that family that made them so? My phone buzzed, cutting her off. The screen lit up with my father's name. The first time he'd called in over a year. Tegan and I exchanged looks. She raised an eyebrow. $10 says they need money. I stared at the phone, remembering all the times I'd called them with good news, only to be brushed off. The times I needed support and gotten lectures instead. The Christmas parties where Devon's latest breakthrough was the only topic of conversation. Should I answer it? I asked, though I already knew I would. 3 years of success hadn't erased the need for their approval. They just taught me to hide it better. The family history. Growing up, I was never the child my parents expected. Devon was the charmer, the golden boy with the easy smile and big promises. I was the quiet one, observing everything, saying little. My father came from a family that valued appearance over substance. His father, my grandfather, had been a small-town banker who lived beyond his means to maintain the illusion of success. The pattern continued with my father, who managed a mid-sized insurance firm but lived in a house he could barely afford, drove cars that impressed the neighbors, and sent Devon to expensive private schools while I attended public school on a scholarship I'd earned myself. My mother had given up a promising career in publishing to be a full-time corporate wife, and the bitterness of that sacrifice seeped into every interaction with her only daughter. She'd placed all her thwarted ambitions onto Devon instead, perhaps seeing in him the man she'd hoped my father would become. Devon learned early how to charm his way through life, while I learned how to work twice as hard for half the recognition. By 16, I was selling handmade jewelry online while he was crashing cars and charming his way out of consequences. By 22, I had a business plan and was seeking startup capital while he was dropping out of his third college program. Up to you, boss lady. Tegan's voice pulled me back to the present. She squeezed my shoulder as she headed for the door. But remember, you're not that scared little girl selling jewelry on Etsy anymore. You're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. The phone kept buzzing. I took a deep breath, straightening my spine like I did before investor meetings. Trinity speaking, I answered, my voice cool and professional. Trinity? My father sounded strange, desperate. We need to talk. It's about Devon. I closed my eyes, thinking about the stack of international contracts waiting for my signature. About the warehouse I'd just bought outright. About the 3 years I'd spent building an empire while they weren't watching. Of course, I said smoothly. What about him? The answer, when it came, almost made me laugh out loud. He's in trouble, sweetheart. Big trouble. And we need your help. The coffee shop confrontation. I chose my favorite coffee shop for the meeting. Not the fancy one Devon always bragged about, but the cozy place where I'd sketched my first business plan on napkins. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. The place where it all began would now witness the beginning of the end. My parents looked out of place among the young professionals with laptops, my father's hands trembling slightly as he stirred his untouched coffee. I noticed the new lines around my mother's eyes, the way my father's shoulders hunched forward. They'd aged in the past year. The investors pulled out last week, he said, voice barely above a whisper. All of them. At once. My mother jumped in, her teacher's authority wavering. It's just a temporary setback. Devon says a lot of things, I interrupted, taking a deliberate sip of my latte. What exactly do you need from me? They exchanged glances, the same looks they'd shared when I announced I was dropping my MBA to focus on my little online shop. We need a loan, my father finally admitted. just until Devin gets back on his feet. The bank, they're not being reasonable. I set down my cup. How much? 400,000, my mother whispered. The house payment is due next week, and there are some other obligations. The number hung in the air between us. I thought about my 16th birthday, when Devin got a brand new car while I got a lecture about responsibility and a bus pass. About the college fund they'd emptied for Devin's first startup, the dating app that lasted 3 months. About the years of dismissal and condescension. That's a lot of money, I said, especially for someone who just sells mugs and stickers online. My father leaned forward, desperation overriding his usual dignity. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Family helps family. Family? I couldn't help but laugh. Like when you helped me with college? Oh wait, you emptied my fund for Devin's first startup. That was different, my mother snapped. Devin had a real opportunity. My father at least had the grace to look embarrassed. He'd always been the weaker one, following my mother's lead in family matters. I'd often wondered if he'd been different once, before years of keeping up appearances hollowed him out. When I worked 2 jobs to buy my first inventory, when I begged you to look at my business plan, I kept my voice low, but the intensity made my mother flinch. Trinity, please. My father's voice cracked. We're about to lose everything. I pulled out my laptop, typing quickly. Tell me something. Did either of you ever actually look at my website? My company? They shifted uncomfortably. My mother attempted a save. We've seen the cute little designs you make. Wrong. I turned the screen around, showing them my company's homepage. This is what I do. That cute little design you're thinking of? It's now a lifestyle brand carried in over 200 stores nationwide. We're launching in Europe next month. The color drained from their faces as I scrolled through press features, collaboration announcements, and revenue reports. But you never said, my father stammered. I tried. For years. I tried. You were too busy funding Devin's dreams to notice mine coming true. My mother's hands clenched around her cup, and I recognized the calculation in her eyes. If you're doing so well, then surely you can help your brother. I have a better idea. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick binder. Let's talk about what my little hobby made last quarter. The bell above the door chimed, and I didn't need to look up to know who it was. Devin's cologne announced his arrival before his voice did expensive and trying too hard. There you are. He dropped into the empty chair, still wearing his signature startup founder outfit, expensive jeans, blazer, pristine sneakers. Like our father, he'd learned early to dress the part, even when the substance was lacking. Mom said you were meeting about a loan. Listen, sis, I know you've probably got some savings from your little shop. I slid the binder across the table, cutting him off. Actually, I was just showing them my Q1 earnings report. Devin's confident smile flickered as he glanced at the numbers. Then he laughed, too loud for the quiet cafe. Come on, this can't be real. You sell merchandise online. I run an 8-figure e-commerce empire, I corrected him. And unlike your AI logistics solution, mine actually exists. Family secrets. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face had gone from pale to ashen. My father couldn't meet my eyes. Devin recovered first, his charm switching on like a light. Hey, that's amazing. You know, with my experience in scaling operations, we could really know. The word came out soft but final. I don't need your experience, Devin. I never did. Trinity, my father pleaded. We're family. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Yes, we are. And that's exactly why this meeting is over. What do you mean? My mother's voice had that dangerous edge I remembered from childhood. I gathered my things, pausing only to leave a generous tip for the barista. I mean, I'll think about it the same way you thought about supporting me all these years. As I walked out, I heard Devin's voice behind me. Don't worry, she'll come around. She has to. We're family. I smiled to myself, already composing a text to Tegan. I'd come around all right, just not in the way they expected. 3 days later, I invited them to my office. Not the cozy converted warehouse space where I actually worked, but the sleek downtown suite I kept for investor meetings, the kind of office Devin had always pretended to have. Nice view, my father said awkwardly, staring at the city skyline. Must be expensive. I own the floor, I replied, watching their reflections in the window. Bought it last year. My mother perched on the edge of a designer chair, her eyes darting around the room like she was trying to spot the catch. This seems excessive for your business. Does it? I pressed a button on my desk, and the wall-mounted screens came to life, displaying our real-time sales dashboard. We're doing about 30,000 in sales today. It's actually a slow Tuesday. Devin leaned forward, his startup founder mask slipping. That's impossible. You can't be making these numbers selling merchandise online. You really never looked into what I actually do, did you? I pulled up our product catalog. We don't just sell mugs, Devin. We're a full-scale lifestyle brand. That little website you mocked? It gets more monthly traffic than your entire industry sector. But my mother started, then stopped, her face contorting as she tried to process the information. Here's the thing, I continued, pulling out a folder. I had my accountant review your situation. The house, Devin's debts, the outstanding loans. It's worse than you told me. My father's shoulders slumped. We were trying to protect Devin. I laughed. Or yourselves? Because I found some interesting transactions, like how you emptied my college fund without telling me. That's fraud, by the way. We were going to pay it back, my mother snapped. As soon as Devin's company succeeded, like his dating app or his crypto platform or this latest AI scam. Devin stood up, his charm replaced by anger. It wasn't a scam. We had a working prototype. No, you had 3 interns manually entering data while you pretended it was AI. I know, because one of them works for me now. The conditions. The silence that followed was delicious. I let it stretch, watching them squirm in their expensive clothes, the veneer of success beginning to crack under the pressure of reality. How much? My father finally asked, his voice hollow. I slid the folder across my glass desk. You need 600,000 to clear everything. More than you admitted to. I can cover it. Their faces lit up with relief, but I wasn't finished. But I have conditions. I pulled out another document. First, you sign the house over to me. What? My mother exploded. That's our home. The home you mortgaged for Devin's lies? I kept my voice level. The home you were about to lose anyway? You can't do this. Devin stepped forward, trying to loom over my desk. We're family. Funny how that only matters when you need something. I stood up, matching his stance. Here's what's going to happen. You sign over the house. You publicly acknowledge what you did with my college fund. And Devin admits his company was a fraud. Or what? My mother's voice had that familiar cruel edge. Or I walk away. Let the banks take everything. Watch you all crash and burn. I smiled, the same smile they taught me to wear at uncomfortable family dinners. I've gotten very good at watching from a distance. You wouldn't, my father whispered, but there was doubt in his voice. He'd never really known me, not really. Try me. I pressed the intercom. Tegan, could you come in with the papers? Tegan entered, carrying a leather portfolio. She dressed for the occasion, every inch the corporate executive. My mother's eyes widened. She'd last seen Tegan in ripped jeans, helping me pack orders in my garage. You're enjoying this, Devin accused, his face red. No, I corrected him. I'm finally getting what I earned. There's a difference. We were trying to help you. My mother tried, her voice softening to the tone she used when manipulating situations. We pushed you to be independent. You ignored me. I cut her off. You dismissed me. You took my money without asking. And now you're going to face the consequences. Or, my father asked quietly, or you can sign these papers, take the money, and we all pretend to be a happy family again. Your choice. Tegan laid out the documents, her expression professionally neutral, but I caught the slight quirk of her lips. She'd been waiting for this moment as long as I had. You've changed, my mother whispered, and for the first time, I heard fear in her voice. No, I replied, offering her a pen. I'm exactly who I've always been. You just never bothered to look. The pen hovered over the paper. In the reflection of my office windows, I watched my family's perfect facade finally start to crack. They signed. The revelation, but Mom had to get one last dig in. I told Tegan later that evening, sprawled on her office couch. Of course she did. Tegan poured 2 generous glasses of wine. What was it this time? I hope you're proud of yourself, taking advantage of family like this. As if I'm the one who stole college funds, I mimicked my mother's disapproving tone. My phone buzzed. Another message from Devin. We need to talk. Just us. Family. Delete, Tegan advised, noticing my expression. He's trying to work his charm angle. Already ahead of you. I blocked his number, then pulled up my laptop. But look what I found while digging through his company records. Tegan leaned over, scanning the spreadsheet. Holy, is that? Yep. He didn't just lie about the AI. He was double billing investors, creating fake customer accounts. I scrolled down, running a pretty impressive Ponzi scheme on the side. Your parents had no idea? They never asked, just kept throwing money at him because he talked a good game. I closed the laptop, but someone else knew. Right on cue, my office door opened. Zoe, Devin's ex-girlfriend and former PR director, walked in. She looked different from the polished startup executive I remembered. More real, somehow. Thanks for meeting me, she said, taking the seat I offered. I wasn't sure you would. Honestly, I almost didn't. I studied her face. Last time I saw you, you were telling reporters my brother was the next Steve Jobs. Zoe winced. Yeah, about that. I've got some things you should see. She pulled out a USB drive, emails, bank statements, records of all the times Devin cooked the books. I kept copies of everything. Why? Tegan asked, ever suspicious. Because I knew someday it would all crash down. Zoe's hands trembled slightly. And because he threw me under the bus when investors started asking questions, told them I was the one mismanaging funds. I took the drive, turning it over in my hands. Why bring this to me now? Because you're the only one who ever saw through him. Zoe leaned forward. And because I heard about your conditions for the bailout. You're planning something bigger, aren't you? Before I could answer, my phone rang. My mother's number. Speaker? Tegan mouthed. I nodded and answered. Trinity? My mother's voice was honey sweet, her negotiating tone. I've been thinking about what you said about acknowledging things publicly. And what if we did something constructive? There's a tech panel next month. Devin's already speaking. You could join him. A success story of siblings in business. I caught Tegan's eye. She was grinning. Go on, I said carefully. It would look good for everyone. Show real family unity. Devin could mentor you, share his expertise. You still think he has expertise to share? I interrupted. After everything? Everyone has setbacks, dear. But Devin's experience, send me the panel details. I cut her off. I'll think about it. I hung up and turned to Zoe. How would you like to help me plan something special for that panel? What did you have in mind? I pulled up the event website. Silicon Valley's finest, all gathered to hear success stories. Seems like the perfect place to tell the truth, doesn't it? They'll try to stop you, Tegan warned. Your mom's already spinning it as a mentorship thing. Let her. I plugged in Zoe's USB drive. Because I'm done letting them write my story. I'm in, Zoe said firmly. Whatever you're planning, I want to see their faces when it all comes out. It'll be brutal, I warned. Once we start this, we can't take it back. Good. Zoe's smile was sharp. They deserve brutal. Tegan raised her glass. To brutal honesty. To consequences, I corrected, clinking glasses with them both. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation. I sat backstage, watching Devin work the pre-panel crowd through the monitor. He was in his element, shaking hands, dropping buzzwords, playing the role of the charming tech visionary. Ready? Tegan adjusted my microphone. You look like you're about to walk into battle. Isn't that what this is? I smoothed my blazer. Designer, bought with my own money. Where's Zoe? In position, front row, laptop ready. Tegan checked her phone. Your parents just arrived. Your mom's already networking, telling everyone how proud she is of her entrepreneurial children. I laughed softly. Let's see how proud she is in about 30 minutes. The moderator called us to the stage. Devin's smile flickered when he saw my outfit. He was used to his little sister in casual wear, not power suits and red sole heels. Welcome to Siblings in Startups, the moderator began. Today we have an inspiring story of family success. I tuned out the introduction, watching my mother's face in the audience. She was beaming, probably already imagining the social capital this would bring her. Devin? The moderator turned to my brother. Tell us about your journey. Well, he flashed that practice smile. It's really about innovation, seeing problems and creating solutions. Our AI platform revolutionizes logistics by. I let him ramble, watching the audience lean forward, buying his empty promises just like his investors had. 10 minutes of perfectly rehearsed startup jargon, and then. Trinity? The moderator turned to me. You followed in your brother's footsteps? Actually, I smiled. I started my company first. Devin's head snapped toward me. This wasn't the script our mother had carefully planned. While Devin was pitching his third startup, I was building something real. No venture capital, no family loans, no AI smoke and mirrors. I pulled up my company's numbers on the presentation screen. Just honest work and actual profits. The audience murmured. My mother's smile had frozen. That's great. Devin tried to recover. As I was mentoring Trinity, mentoring, I laughed. Is that what you call dismissing my business as a hobby? Or did you mean when you and our parents emptied my college fund for your failed dating app? The moderator looked between us, sensing the shift. Perhaps we should focus on the positive aspects? Let's do that, I agreed. Let's talk about how my little online shop generated more revenue last quarter than all of Devin's startups combined. Let's discuss real business versus investment fraud. Trinity. Devin warned, but I was done being quiet. The truth is, this isn't a story about sibling success. It's about family dysfunction, about parents who backed the wrong horse, and about karma finally coming due. On cue, Zoe pressed enter on her laptop. The screens behind us filled with Devin's real company records, the fake accounts, the diverted funds, the lies. What you're seeing, I continued as gasps filled the room, is the reality behind the charm. Every cookbook, every false promise, every investor defrauded. You can't. Devin started. I can, and I am. I turned to face him directly. You're not a visionary, Devin. You're a con artist who happened to be born into a family willing to believe your lies. My mother stood up, face contorted with rage. Trinity, stop this immediately. No, Mom. I don't take orders from you anymore. I addressed the audience. My parents remortgaged their house to fund his schemes. They stole my education money to prop up his lies. And when it all fell apart, they expected me, the child they ignored, to bail them out. The moderator had given up trying to control the situation. Journalists in the crowd were frantically taking notes. But here's the real punchline, I continued, my voice steady. While they were all dismissing my work as a hobby, I built a multi-million-dollar company, one that actually helps people, creates real jobs, and doesn't need lies to succeed. Devin stood up, knocking over his chair. You're destroying our family. No, I corrected him. I'm exposing what our family really is. There's a difference. My father was trying to reach the stage now, but security stopped him. My mother's face had gone from red to white. Ladies and gentlemen, I concluded, this is what happens when you mistake charm for competence, when you value appearances over truth, and when you bet everything on the wrong child. I unpinned my microphone and stood up. Thank you for coming. The full documentation of everything I've shown today will be available to the press within the hour. And Devin, I turned to my brother one last time. Consider this my last investment in family. The aftermath. The room erupted into chaos as I walked off stage. Tegan met me in the wings, grinning. Your mom's having a meltdown, she reported, and your phone's blowing up with interview requests. I took one last look at the pandemonium I'd created. Let's go. I think my point's been made. Was it worth it? Tegan asked as we headed for the exit. I thought about the years of dismissal, of being overlooked, of swallowing my pride. Every single second, I replied and pushed open the door to face whatever came next. The video went viral within hours. Hobby to Empire was trending, along with clips of Devon's face when the records appeared on screen. I watched it all unfold from my office, ignoring the flood of messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Your mother's here, Tegan announced through the intercom. Security wants to know if they should let her up. I sighed. Send her in. Might as well finish this. My mother burst through the door like a storm cloud, my father trailing behind her. She'd been crying. Her mascara was smeared, but her rage was intact. How dare you? She hissed. How dare you humiliate us like that? Humiliate you. By telling the truth? You've destroyed your brother's life. She slammed her hands on my desk. Everything he worked for, he didn't work for anything. I cut her off. That's the point. He lied. You enabled him. And I'm done pretending. Trinity, my father stepped forward. We can still fix this. Issue a statement. Say it was a misunderstanding. Like you misunderstood taking my college fund? I pulled out the bank statements. Or misunderstood lying to investors? Which part should I take back? You've always been jealous of Devon, my mother spat. Always cold, always calculating. No. I stood up slowly. I was always watching. Watching you praise his failures while dismissing my successes. Watching you throw good money after bad. Watching you choose him over and over. We didn't choose. Yes, you did. I opened my drawer and pulled out an envelope. And now I'm choosing too. My father recognized the legal letterhead. What is this, an agreement? I'll buy the house. Fair market value. I'll even cover Devon's legal fees when the fraud charges hit. But there are conditions. More conditions? My mother's voice dripped venom. Haven't you taken enough? These are different. I laid out the papers. A public acknowledgement of what you did with my college fund, a formal apology for years of dismissal, and a promise to stay out of my life, professionally and personally. You can't be serious, my father whispered. I've never been more serious. I sat back down. Sign, and this ends today. Refuse, and I'll make sure every investor Devon defrauded knows exactly how you helped him do it. Family letters. This isn't you. My mother's voice cracked. You're not this person. This is exactly who I am. Who I've always been. You just never bothered to look. A knock at the door interrupted us. Walker, my mentor and lead investor, stepped in. Sorry to interrupt, he said, though his timing was perfect as always. Trinity, the board is waiting. My mother's eyes widened. Board? Yes, mother. I'm not just a CEO. I'm answerable to shareholders now. People who actually value what I've built. Walker nodded politely to my parents. I've been following Trinity's work for years. You must be very proud. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. The papers are there if you want them, I said, standing up. Take them or leave them. I have a meeting to attend. You've always been cold and selfish, my mother said, but her voice shook. Ever since you were little. Actually, Walker interrupted. Trinity is one of the most generous people I know. Ask any of her employees, or the charities she supports, or the small businesses she's helped launch. You don't know her like we do, my father protested weakly. No, Walker agreed. I know her better because I actually paid attention. I gathered my things, heading for the door. The choice is yours. Sign or don't. Either way, I'm done pretending. Wait, my father called. There's something you should know. In the garden shed at the house, there are letters. I turned back. Letters from your grandmother. She wrote to you every month before she died about how proud she was of your creativity, your drive. Your mother. He stopped, looking at my mother. We kept them from you. My mother finished, deflating slightly. They're still there. For a moment, the world stood still. My grandmother, the only one who had ever truly seen me, who had slipped me $20 bills to buy art supplies, who had taught me to sew and encouraged my first clumsy attempts at creating. She died when I was 14, and I'd felt utterly alone after that. The revelation should have hurt more than it did. Instead, I felt oddly calm, as if the final piece of a puzzle had fallen into place. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "I'll pick them up when I collect the house keys." "Trinity, please." My mother tried one last time. "We're still your parents." "Yes, you are. But that doesn't mean what you think it means anymore." I left them there with the papers and their choices, and walked into my board meeting with my head high. Behind me, I heard my mother start to cry. Real tears this time, not the manipulative ones I'd grown up with. Sometimes karma doesn't just come for the obvious villains. Sometimes it comes for the people who stood by and watched, who chose wrong, who thought love meant never having to say they were sorry. And sometimes karma wears designer heels and runs a multi-million-dollar company. The final dinner, the final family dinner wasn't my idea. Tegan suggested it, saying I needed closure. So I invited them to my penthouse, not for reconciliation, but for an ending. They arrived exactly on time, looking smaller somehow. My mother's designer outfit seemed forced. My father's smile strained. Devin didn't come. He'd fled to Miami after the panel, hiding from investors and legal notices. "Nice place," my father said awkwardly, staring at the city skyline. "Very successful. Sit." I gestured to the dining table. "Dinner will be ready soon." "You cooked?" My mother sounded surprised. "No. I hired a chef." Another perk of running a real business. They sat awkwardly while I poured wine. The city lights sparkled through floor-to-ceiling windows, a reminder of how far I'd climbed. "Before we eat," I picked up a remote. "I want to show you something." The massive TV screen came to life. My mother flinched, probably expecting more exposed secrets. Instead, the video opened with me in my first apartment, surrounded by shipping boxes. "What's this?" my father asked. "Watch." The footage showed me and Tegan packing orders at 3 a.m., celebrating our first $100 day, crying over our first major retailer contract. Years of work condensed into minutes. "Where did you get all this?" my mother whispered. "Tegan filmed everything. Said someday we'd want to remember how it started." The scene changed to customer testimonials, people describing how our products helped them, how our company's success inspired them to start their own businesses. "You really built all this. While you were funding Devin's fantasies." My father's voice cracked. "Yes." My mother set down her wine glass. "Why are you showing us this?" "Because tomorrow, our YouTube channel releases a documentary called Hobby versus Hype. It tells the whole story. How I built my empire while you backed Devin's frauds. How family can be your greatest obstacle instead of your biggest support." "You can't," my mother started. "I already did. It's done. But I wanted you to see it first." The video continued, showing the contrast between my steady growth and Devin's spectacular failures. Their faces grew paler with each scene. "It didn't have to be this way," my father said quietly. "No, it didn't. You could have supported both your children. Could have celebrated real success instead of chasing flash. Could have been actual parents instead of Devin's cheerleaders." "We were trying to help." "No." I cut my mother off. "You were trying to create the story you wanted. The son who'd make you proud. The daughter who'd stay quiet and small. But that story is over." The video ended with recent footage, my office, my team, my success. Then the screen went dark, leaving us in silence. "The letters." "I found Grandma's letters," I said finally. "The ones you hid." My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her wine. "We thought they would give you unrealistic ideas. They gave me hope. Even from beyond the grave, she saw me clearer than you ever did." I'd spent the afternoon in the garden shed, dust motes dancing in the air as I opened box after box. And there they were, dozens of envelopes addressed to me in my grandmother's elegant script. Letters spanning years, each one filled with encouragement, pride, and a belief in me that no one else had ever shown. Your grandmother always had fanciful ideas, my mother said dismissively. She never understood the real world. She understood me, I replied, and she understood that the real world is what we make it. I thought about the letter that had moved me most, written just weeks before she died. My dearest Trinity, she'd written, never let anyone dim your light. The same family that doesn't see your brilliance now will one day stand in its glow, wondering how they missed it. And when that day comes, remember that true power isn't in revenge, but in redefining what family means to you. What do you want from us? My father asked. Why this dinner? Because tomorrow everything changes. The documentary goes live. The truth comes out, and whatever relationship we had ends. You're disowning us? My mother's voice rose. No, I'm freeing myself from expectations, from guilt, from the weight of being your backup plan. And Devin made his choices. Now he can live with them. The chef appeared with our meals, perfectly plated, elegantly served. We ate in silence, the food tasting like ashes. What happens now? My father finally asked. Now you go home. You watch your carefully constructed world crumble. You face the consequences of your choices. And my mother's makeup was smeared again. What do you get out of this? I stood up, walking to the windows. Peace. Clarity. The knowledge that I succeeded not because of you, but in spite of you. Family doesn't mean, my father began. Family doesn't mean perpetual forgiveness, I finished. Sometimes it just means history. They left shortly after, my mother's shoulders shaking, my father looking aged. I watched their car disappear into the city traffic. Tegan called moments later. Documentaries queued for morning release. You okay? I thought about the letters in my safe. My grandmother's words of encouragement that had come years too late. About the family I'd lost and the empire I'd built. I'm perfect, I replied. Tomorrow we make history. To karma? She suggested. To truth, I corrected. It's time everyone heard it. The city lights blurred as I raised my glass to my reflection. Tomorrow the world would know my story. But tonight, in this moment, I was finally completely free. Epilogue. The documentary hit 5 million views by noon. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since sunrise. Journalists, talk shows, podcast hosts, all wanting the woman who turned a hobby into headlines. Your brother's in Thailand, Tegan announced, walking into my office with 2 coffees. Someone spotted him at a beach resort, running as usual. I took the coffee. Any word from my parents? Their house just listed. Asking price is fair. They're actually following your terms. I pulled up the listing on my screen. The familiar colonial where I'd grown up, where I'd packed my first orders in the garage, where my grandmother's letters had waited for years in the garden shed. Ms. Trinity? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Zoe's here for your meeting. Zoe walked in, looking transformed, confident, sharp, ready for battle. The investors want to sue Devin for everything. They're asking if you'll testify. I'll do better than that. I want you to handle their PR strategy. She blinked. Me? You know the whole story. You helped expose it. And you're starting your own consultancy, right? How did you? I pay attention. I smiled. That's how I built this company. By seeing potential others missed. My phone buzzed again. My mother's number. I declined it, but her text came through anyway. I'm sorry. You think we weren't proud? Tegan read over my shoulder. Still can't admit they were wrong. They never will. I deleted the message. But I don't need them to anymore. Trinity? Walker appeared in the doorway. There's something you should see. He led us to the conference room, where CNBC was playing on the big screen. A familiar face filled the frame. My father, standing outside their house. Turn it up, I said quietly. We failed both our children, he was saying, his voice rough. We backed the wrong dreams, ignored the right ones. Trinity succeeded because she's stronger than our mistakes. Tegan whispered, "Holy." My mother appeared beside him, looking older, smaller. "We're selling our home to make things right. Not because Trinity forced us, but because it's time to face what we did." I watched in silence as they admitted everything: the college fund, the favoritism, the years of dismissal. "That's unexpected," Zoe said. "Is it enough?" Tegan asked softly. I thought about the little girl who'd begged for attention, the teenager who'd worked 2 jobs, the woman who'd built an empire in silence. "No," I replied, "but it's something." My phone lit up with another text, this time from an unknown number in Thailand. "Devin, you won. Okay? You destroyed everything. Happy now?" I showed the others. Zoe snorted, still making it about him. "Always will." I blocked the number. "Some people never change." "But some do," Walker noted, nodding at the TV where my parents were still talking. I turned off the screen. "Maybe. But that's their journey now, not mine." "So what's next?" Tegan asked. "World domination?" "Actually, I pulled up a presentation. I'm launching a foundation for entrepreneurs who need the support their families won't give them. Starting with full college scholarships. Using the house money." "Every penny?" Zoe asked. "Seems fitting, doesn't it?" Walker smiled. "Your grandmother would be proud." She already was. I touched the locket I wore inside, a fragment of her last letter. She just saw me clearer than most. My assistant appeared again. "They're ready for the board meeting." I gathered my things, then paused. "Zoe, want to sit in? If you're handling PR, you should know what's coming." Her face lit up. "Really?" "Really." I turned to Tegan. "Partner?" "Right behind you, boss." We walked toward the boardroom together. Not family by blood, but something stronger, something chosen. My phone buzzed one last time. A news alert. "Family home of viral CEO listed for sale." I smiled, thinking of the garden shed, the hidden letters, the dreams that grew despite the shadows. The house wasn't home anymore. This was, this office, these people, this empire I'd built on determination and spite and hope. "Ready?" Tegan asked as we reached the boardroom doors. I looked at my reflection in the glass, confident, unstoppable, free. No longer the overlooked daughter or the backup plan. Just me, finally and completely. "Ready?" I replied, and pushed open the doors to whatever came next. Some say revenge is best served cold, but I've learned it's best served successful, with a side of truth, a garnish of karma, and the sweet taste of proving everyone wrong. And sometimes, just sometimes, it comes with the unexpected bonus of setting yourself free.